Yeah, it's not like driving. Right.
That one. Actually, it's probably more like driving for me. Okay. All right, so thanks everyone for having me here. Thank you, Sarge, for inviting me. Much appreciated. It's really awesome to come halfway around the world and speak to you guys, so thank you very much. I've called this Enterprise versus Lean Startup, Lessons from the Battlefield, because as you can imagine, trying to get cool, nifty ideas happening in a very, very large enterprise is pretty tricky. Telstra has 39,000 employees and is a very large telecommunications company in Australia. So what we've been doing for the last 3 years is we've been doing our Agile journey. And as we've gone along that Agile journey, as you know, you try doing Agile with software development and so forth, and you suddenly find that there's a whole bunch of other processes that need work. And then other things become useful. So we've been trying things like Lean and Cynefin. Anyone heard of Cynefin here? I'll mention it a bit later on. We've got Scrum, we've got Kanban, we've got Lean Startup. I call it Kanban, other people call it Kanban, so apologies if I'm pronouncing it wrong. And also systems thinking. So we've been trying quite a few different things. So where we're going to go with this, I'm going to take you through a few quick points as far as observations and what we've learned. Then I'm going to go through a case study, then I'm going to go through a few other bits and pieces. All right, and feel free to ask questions as we go through. So the first thing is the starting point isn't always the starting point. So, you know, a method might say do A, B, C, but particularly in the enterprise where you really need to figure out, well, will this work, won't it work? Hey, this is interesting, this might make this part of the enterprise process better. You might start with C rather than A. That's perfectly okay. Your assumptions are probably wrong. I mean, you guys are at the Lean Startup meetup group, so you already know that one. What don't you know? So if we look at this picture here, the stick figure is seeing these lovely squares, well, my approximate drawing of squares, and obviously thinking of building stuff based on squares, but hasn't even bothered to turn around and see there's a whole bunch of triangles there that we could also use to build. That would be awesome. So what is it that we don't know? What aren't we looking at? And just because you have a budget doesn't mean you have to spend it, so of course I've put that, you know, if you have lots of money, you would spend it on shoes, because that's a girl thing, right? Cool. So that's all pretty counterintuitive. So what we've found is it's good to have a constrained budget and time frame. So it's actually good. I shudder in horror when I have a project manager come to me and say, hey Kim, how can I spend my, you know, name the number of dollars in an envelope here, how can I spend my money next year? What can I get from my entire envelope? I'd much rather say, let's pick a very small number and start with a very small amount and see whether we can do something with that, and then see whether we need your whole envelope next year or not. Because we're still on financial year planning and everything like that at Telstra. That's how it is. How do we exceed customer expectations? Okay, so we start with a box. Well, that's not going to give it very much. But what are the 1, 2 or 3 things? They're the little circles. What are just the extra things we need to put in there to delight our customers? And only put those, don't put too much in. Test your assumptions. Failure is actually an option. So we need to accept failure. And now I'm going to tell you about a case study, but just before I go into that, any quick questions? All right. So what I've been doing, I've been working with quite a lot of projects in our company, and the old process for getting money for a piece of work was, I've got an idea, how much does it cost? Does anyone else work the same way? Business case, right? I've got an idea, tell me how much it costs. Now that actually drives a whole bunch of work, and I had a bit of a suspicion that we could actually get rid of some of that work, that perhaps some of that work was waste. Because what would actually happen is people would go away and come back and say, hey, I'll pick a silly number, hey, it's going to cost you $10 for that idea. And then whoever wanted it would go, but I've only got $5. And then you spend a whole bunch of time trying to figure out which half of the requirements to cut out. So I thought, there's probably a lot of waste there. Maybe we can change how we ask the question. And that's what I've changed the question into, is I've got an idea, and therefore I think I'm going to make this kind of money or get this kind of benefit. And if I'm going to get this kind of benefit or make this sort of money, then how much am I prepared to spend? Okay, well, is it feasible to get something for that? So the example before, instead of saying, I've got an idea, how much does it cost? Hang on, it's $10, but I've only got 5. It turns into, I've got an idea, I think I could make $100 out of it, and I'm prepared to spend $5 on it. Is it feasible? So what we did with this particular project, it was actually a program of work. It had 15 initiatives under it. And we ran a series of workshops, one for each initiative, where we actually asked that question. And we came back and said, out of the 15, these ones are feasible, and these ones aren't feasible, or these ones over here need a bit more analysis. The way we ran the workshop, we used this. It's called an Erectus template. Has anyone seen it? No? I love this template. Anytime you've got something where people need to talk about what's the project we're trying to do, what are we trying to achieve, and how are we going to achieve it, always start the conversation with one of these templates. So Erectus is the acronym here. It stands for Increased Revenue, Avoid Costs, and Increase Service. So what I do is I get the project sponsor to come in and say to them, imagine you're in the lift or the elevator with our CEO, and he says, what are your goals and drivers for this piece of work? And as they tell that story, I'll write down what the goals and drivers are, and I'll plonk them where I think they go. And when they finish giving their pitch, I'll ask them, I'll clarify. I'll say, that bit where you said we're going to sell 100 of these a day, I thought that's about increasing sales or increasing revenue, is that right? And they'll confirm that. The other thing I'll use this for, once we've got those goals and drivers mapped in, is how would we know that we've achieved this? What's our measure of success? Are we going to try and sell 100 of these things a day for $1 each? Or are we going to try and sell 2 of these things a year for $500 each? Because what you build for selling something at high volume is very different from selling something at low volume but really big. So yeah, this template is awesome. I love it, and it's a great way to clarify a conversation. Never bring it into a workshop completed, because the value is in filling it out and the conversations you have in filling it out. So anyway, with that lovely project, we found that there were 2 ideas, 2 initiatives that we should proceed with. The first one we did as an experiment, and I'm so glad we did because it did work. So we saved the company a lot of money. The second one, we thought it was going to cost a certain amount, but we could only find this much budget because, of course, the next financial year's budget hadn't been allocated yet. So what I did, I said, well, rather than wait till we see if we can get the whole budget, let's see if we can actually build something with the little bit of money we've got. Let's use the concept of minimum viable product. So you know how I said at the start, the starting point isn't always the starting point? This is the key concept that I've used from Lean Startup so far, which is around minimum viable product. It was really amazing. Because what we did a 4-day workshop, and we found for the little bit of money we had, we could get these 4 features. And then we said, is this something we'd ever sell to a customer? We go, no, it isn't. All right, so what are the 3 things or whatever we need to add to make it saleable to a customer? And that's what we got. And that's our minimum viable product. And just to be safe, we said, well, what if we need these other things? How much will that be as well? So we could warn people, because this minimum viable product was actually based on 2 really, really big assumptions. The good thing was, that was the money we had in our hand, and we found enough money to do this as well. And in the meantime, we put in a bid for the rest of the funding. All right, So, we started off in that lovely project, started coding. We were up and running in coding within about 3 weeks. Now for an enterprise, that's pretty darn good, right? That's really good. However, within 5 weeks, we'd actually busted our two big assumptions. And the big surprise to me was the conversations that we had, right? Because I was in a meeting, we had this weekly meeting called a stop or keep going decision meeting. We ran for 15 minutes and we looked at 4 data points on the project and we'd make a decision whether we'd keep going or we'd stop the project. And we'd just busted those 2 assumptions and we had to ask the business for more money. And I was saying, should it be, this many dollars or that many dollars? A little bit less or a little bit more? And the big surprise to me, because I work in IT, was the business saying, well, let's make it the larger number because I only want to go back to my boss once. Now, to have a business person in an enterprise telling you they want to spend more money, that was awesome. Okay. The other thing is that the day before that, I'd been doing a post-implementation review on another project, which had run in the traditional manner without using a minimum viable product. And of course, it started with everything. This is what this picture is. Start with everything. They barreled along with the project. And of course, they got to a point where they were running out of time and money, and they had to reduce the scope. So all the conversations were, we can do it this way, A, B, or C, which one do you want? But they all start off with disappointment. Whereas starting with the MVP, the conversations were all about, here's this really good solid reason why we have to add this scope. We've busted these 2 assumptions, and it's going to cost us a bit more, take us a bit more time. Is that okay? Okay, now I've drawn smiley faces on the people. It's still hard to explain the changes. They're not really easy, super easy conversations. They are much healthier conversations than when you start the other way. And that was the really big surprise to me, and that's what I wanted to really share from an enterprise perspective. Using minimum viable product as a way to start a project is a really, really good way to have great conversations about it. And much better than starting with, I want these 100 things and then running out of time and money. There we go. Has anyone seen the cone of uncertainty before? Yes? A few? So what this is, a traditional project, you start off with a lot of uncertainty at the start. And by doing smaller iterations, this is more from an agile perspective, you actually have less uncertainty. So you're learning within the uncertainty and you can go to different places because you plan it all out at the start, you think you're going to end here, but actually you need to end there. That's the whole process, the whole concept of lean startup, right? Iterate your way to the right end. Okay, there's another project that I had, which is a series of 200 initiatives under 7 streams. And they came to me and they said, Kim, we need to prioritise this work. I said, okay. First of all, tell me out of those 200 initiatives, which ones are predictable in outcome and how we're going to do them, and which ones are uncertain. When they came back to me, 6 of them were predictable and the rest were uncertain. So that's why I've made this statement here, that it's likely that somewhere between 3% and 25% of project work has a predictable outcome and the rest is uncertain. That really surprised me because how you deal with uncertainty is by experimentation rather than by planning. And working in an enterprise, everything's assumed to be certain and therefore we treat everything as being able to be planned and then executed. So of course, what do you do? Well, where the outcomes are predictable, has anyone heard of weighted shortest job first?
What was it?
Weighted shortest job first, or WSJF, or as we pronounce it, WSJF. Okay. This is a really good way to do prioritisation, and I think it's a really good way to do it where your outcome is certain. Because what you do is you grab 4 criteria or 4 elements of your work. Customer value, cost of delay, risk reduction opportunity, and job size. And then you can do in any list, so it could be 6 things, it could be 20 things, it could be 100 things. This is a process that we in Telstra have been using in IT to decide the priority of our capital spend in IT. So all of our directors get together every 2 weeks. They get new pieces of work in with these 4 elements, and then they vote for each of them, whether they're of low value or of high value. And then you basically add these 3 numbers up and divide by the size and sort. And whatever floats to the top will be the smallest piece of work with the highest value in those other 3 elements. So it's a really good first cut way to prioritise a set of pieces of work. Now you still run your common sense over it. So if I had a piece of work where I was going to, say, invent a new phone and then sell it, clearly selling it's going to give you the highest value, and that will get sorted up to the top. But I can't sell it without inventing it first, so that'll have to be manually moved to the top of the list. So that's how you deal with the predictable work. With the uncertain work, we want to do experiments. So what you want to do there is generate a bunch of experiments, and the workshop thing that we're doing tomorrow morning is a way to do that. And what you want, instead of getting the 4 elements that we mentioned before, you get the size of the experiment and the value of the lesson learnt. And the value of the lesson should be regardless of whether it succeeds or fails. And then you can do the same thing. You can just divide the value of the lesson by the size of the experiment, do the sort. Things that float to the top should be the smallest experiment with the greatest value. And then of course you run a whole bunch of experiments in parallel. If they work, you amplify. If they don't work, you stop, or you do a new experiment. So that's what we're planning to do with that list of 200 initiatives, which is really cool. Oh yeah, and then once you've done the experiment, it goes back into the other list. And it can be prioritised using the traditional weighted short story first, or you get more predictability and you go back to doing that. I wanted to mention the Kinetics framework because I find it really awesome. That's where this idea originally comes from. So a couple of people have seen the Kinetics framework, mentioned before, but not the rest of you. I'd highly recommend that you go have a look at the Cognitive Edge website if you get a chance, if you're interested. But basically, systems can be divided into 5 different types of categories. The one in the middle is called disorder. And
Kim, what's a system?
A system? A system, that's a big long conversation. A system can be anything. It can be a problem, it can be, my body is a system, my circulatory system is a system, when talking to each other is a system, this meetup group is a system. I've just started reading a book called General System Theory, so my mind's getting blown away about what a system is, so that's a really hard
But
question.
at Telstra, how do you define a system at Telstra? Is it a problem? Or?
It's just a space that you're looking at, so it could be a problem, or it could be a something that has multiple elements. Okay, I've done a post on my blog, on my blog site, where I talk about Kanban and an example of Kanban in the simple arena. So simple means anyone can understand it, and if you look at the simple Kanban board with to do, doing and done, anyone can do that, it's very easy. But there's stuff about Kanban that's complicated and requires expertise. So that's like the psychology of the board. People can go and study and they can learn psychology and they can become experts in psychology. Right. So on the right-hand side is the predictable arena or the ordered space. On the left-hand side is unordered. So complex is where you can't predict the outcome. So with a Kanban board, I could never have predicted at home that my Kanban board would teach me, don't write down a task as prune all of the plum trees, because I can never fill up my green waste bin. I will overfill my green waste bin if I do that, so I'll never actually start it. So I've instead written the task as fill up green waste bin. So complex is where you can't predict the outcome. So what a Kanban board will teach each of us when we use it is something that we can't predict. And then chaotic is where, a good example is where there's been a natural disaster or a system has an outage and stops working. So first thing you do is you get it restored, and then everything else you need to do, root cause analysis, deeper patches and deeper fixes, all fall into these other domains. And disorder sits in the middle because we humans don't like disorder, so we actually impose order on things. Okay? So disorder doesn't usually last for very long. Dave Snowden has got some really good videos. They only run for a very short time, so if you want a really good explanation of the Connected framework, I would highly recommend going to look at those videos. You could also go as deep as you like into all of the research. There's Harvard Business Review articles and a whole bunch of things as well. It's a really useful tool. An example of how I use it just as a classification framework, and it's far more than that. This is where I had a project that had 10 reports, and we had to decide which ones do we do first, and who gets to work on them and those sorts of things. So I said, well, which reports we know where to get the data from, we're fairly sure that it exists, and we can just go off and do it. So there were 2 of those, simple ones. And then I said, well, which ones we're fairly certain we can get the data, but we need someone who's got some expertise to come in and help us to figure it out so we can get the reports done. They were complicated, so there were 6 of those. And then, which reports we don't even know where to get the data from, we're not quite sure of the purpose of the report, and we're really at a loss as to where to start, and we think we actually need to do some of the complicated ones to be able to do them. So there were 2 of those as well. And that really helped because without feel I could have done the same thing, but having the Connected framework and using it as a classification helped me to explain to people, help the team to explain to each other why we could just go off and do these, why we had to have workshops on those, and why it was better to wait for more information before we executed those ones. This is a picture that I drew to explain the first case study, where we had the 15 sub-programs or sub-projects. And we actually had a great big board, and we had things divided into experiments, analysis, which in this case happened to be market research, and build. So where we had an uncertain outcome, we were doing an experiment, we only had one of those. We had, I think we had about 6 or 8 of them running through the analysis required, and we had the one that we didn't even have a viable product on as the build. The reason that was predictable is because it was actually for a slightly different market segment to one that we'd already implemented. So we knew that there was a need for it in the market, so we were able to just go straight into it and do it. The other thing was watching as a program, as we built things, what was the cost going to be, and when we were going to start getting a benefit, and hopefully where the lines were going to cross, so that we could make decisions about whether to keep going or not. Okay, so in conclusion, so there's no tailor-made tool, particularly in enterprise. Yeah, well, there isn't really anyway. So grab your tools or grab bits of tools from all over the place. You know, from Lean, from Kanban, from Connected, from Lean Startup, and so forth. There's lots of useful things. Feel free to mix and match and make your tools. When you have constraints, it can equal surprise. Okay, so the constraint of not having enough funding to start with and forcing ourselves to focus on a minimum viable product led to the wonderful surprise that you have much different and much healthier conversations when you start with an MVP. And in this picture, of course, we found our lovely triangles, so we can put more stuff. And back to the other point, it's a bit like a pizza topping. You don't have to follow the chef's suggestion. You can come up with your own toppings. All right? And that's the end of the presentation. So are there any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. So in a big company, at what point do people decide to bring in these novel methods and tools? Does that come after colossal failure, or is it what drives people to say, let's bring some new tools to manage flow and process?
Actually, I haven't thought about that. That's a really good question. The reason that I've been using these tools is because waste annoys me. and I like to do value for money things. So I'll bring in whatever I can and use whatever ideas I've got an opportunity to use. And I'm really lucky because people are happy to bear with me and try them out. The project that we tried the MVP out on, I was so pleased with the support that I had from senior management on that one. But yeah, in our case, I can imagine it happening where people have gone, oh my goodness, there's been something bad happen. In our company, we're just at the stage now where we are trying a lot of different things because management are open to trying different things, which is really cool.
How many people here work at an enterprise level? How many of you guys actually have a process, or do you challenge your process, or just you do it because that's how it's always been?
I mean, looking back at the Human Innovation Center, we had a process that we followed, and it was a lot driven by executive stakeholders. So that's.
But that's how it was, and there was never any challenge of maybe there's another process or another.
I mean, while I was there, we implemented Kanban. We switched from Scrum to Kanban as a result of a shrinking budget within the department. And still needing to, through this team, address bug fixes as well as new development. So we have all the product owners come to the meetings, to the daily meetings, and kind of fight for their products. So that's kind of what we did.
Elliot, can you talk about AWOL?
I can hear your question.
Gotcha.
Repeat your question.
So the question is, in big enterprise level, when you're having your processes of doing stuff, do you actually analyze your process, or are you just doing it because that's how it's always been, or?
No. Elliot Pearson, I work in advertising and I work upstairs. I'm a software engineer. I'm also an architect here. So as far as our process, we're constantly evolving it. We do have a lot of agile development here. We practice Scrum throughout a lot of our offices. So as far as our process, we're always looking at it to see if we're improving. We do things at a team level, and we also look at it at the enterprise level. So we do have checks and balances in places to make sure that we're following the process, and also to make sure that we're doing things that make sense for each team.
Who else is at enterprise? What about at startups? Who works at a startup? Do you guys think about your processes, or not really, or no? Oh, this is interesting, isn't it? But I appreciate the comments you made that these are just methods and tools. You don't have to use them, but you just have to find the right pizza for you, whether it's pineapples and eggs, which is clearly an Australian thing, or mushrooms and tomatoes. Any other questions? Well, thank you very much.
I'd like to thank Kim for introducing the MVP, the minimum, what's that, the minimum value?
Yes.
Viable. That's very good to define.